Hi there, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel and welcome back if you've been here before. So today is the second part of the build of the Austin K2Y Katy ambulance in 1/35th scale from Gecko Models. We'll go from where we left off last time, which was basically a rolling chassis, and we'll build up the front end, the engine bay, and start the back of the cab as well. There's a lot here to do. There's a lot of fun photo etch, tiny details and all sorts of other things, and a major gaff for you to laugh at. So lots of entertainment all round, I think. If you enjoy the video, as you always know, please imperial thumbs up on the symbol down there. And if you haven't done so yet, please remember to subscribe to the channel. Click on the little logo down there. And when you subscribe, if you click on the bell logo, it allows you to get notifications when new videos come up, such as the other parts of this build. Okay, enough of all of that. Let's get on and show you some progress on the Austin K2Y in 1/35th from Gecko Models.
Right, so to make the next part, we're going to make the steps for the back of the ambulance. We're going to make them in a stowed position. So, first of all, the bottom step, as it were, has to sit on these runners at the back. It's a little bit of extra thin. This isn't how you normally use extra thin cement, but I think in this case, something thick like contactor might be a bit too heavy. As long as you get there quick enough, it will bind in nicely. So make sure it's squared off before it starts to dry properly. Then you've got the moving arms. You see they've got like a little spot, little knob at the end, and that goes into this little hole here. And we'll do the same for the other side. Then you've got the top step, and you see top step has got a pin at this end that goes into the pin there and there, and then we can close it down level and ready, stowed properly. And next we've got a couple of cross braces here, and these are in photo etch. So we've just got a little dab of high viscosity super glue on here. I use high viscosity because it gives me about 10 to 20 seconds or so before it actually sets. Normally it's like fairly instant, but with this, because it can move just a little bit, you can get your placing just where you want it. And the other piece goes across the other way. There we go. Lovely job. Then we put the stairs on the back end. Right, so there's a couple of pegs that locate them. And we'll let them sit there to dry before we do anything else. There's a couple of photo etch brackets that go just next to these little pegs here. Just put a bit of again the old high viscosity super glue here. And just for the moment, I'm just going to put them roughly into place with the longer side on the outside. get this. So what I'll let this do is I'll let this set into place first. Then I can, when it's in the right place, then I can push the flaps around the sides and tack them down as well. But I don't have to be in a hurry to do that just yet. And to buckle down the ends here, you can just use regular instant super glue. Then the last bit for this page really is this little eye here. I guess it's for, maybe it's a toe hook ring or something like that, I don't know, but it is. But there's a little ring that goes on there anyway, one on each side. Right, so next up is more photo etch and the radiator grills on the front. So what I've done, cut them out. I've just put a bit of the high viscosity glue at this end just to get it tacked down safely first, make sure everything's in the right place. And as I say, that takes 10 to 30 seconds to cure, so we can leave that for a little moment. It does look smart, doesn't it? You see, FX, this is why photo etch is so good. And then what I'll do is just pop the end of that out briefly, and then I'll run some of the low viscosity regular super glue underneath here. Let's lift it up a little bit more. There we go. So run some of the low viscosity regular super glue in. And just run some of that low viscosity super glue up along the edges like this. Like this. Then they can go into their final place nice and tidy. And there it is. And we'll do the same for the sides. What we'll do is just pre-bend the sides slightly round a brush or something like that first. So I've got a big brush here. I'm just going to put that on the side and just give it a little press down. It probably won't be as acute a curve as this, but we can always take a bit more of the bend out. There goes just a little bit of a bend put into the... And there we go. That's the radiator grille put on. Very smart. Just one thing, by the way, if you're doing the ice cold in Alex, Katie, you need to take off this badge, sand it off before you do anything. Maybe drill a couple of holes where the badge would have been, because on the Katie in the film, that badge has been lost, knocked off. Just a little point of detail you might enjoy. Next thing I'm going to do is just pop these tiny water filler caps onto the top of the radiator. I am going to paint them with some brass because it will look nice if we ever see them again and they're not tucked away under the hood somewhere where nothing ever gets seen again anyway. The front and back of the radiator assembly just clip together and just let them dry. And so the top of the radiator sits on like so, just clips into place. And just put a dash of glue in there. There we go, that'll hold it. I've put on these tiny little caps for the water filler. I'll paint them brass because they just look nice in brass. And I'll touch up all of the rest of the paint in a moment before we carry on any further. This then just slots in here. There's a couple of parts where these pegs slot in. And there we go, that's the radiator in. There's a couple of little drops of glue up here to make sure they stay on. Sorry about the shaking every now and again, because I have to work at such close range. Every now and again just bash the phone with my hand and it makes it shake a lot because it's on a long arm, so like that. Okay, so that's now going to set there. I'll wait for that to dry up. Then there's a couple of small photo etch brackets that go in. I'll do those next. Then finally these little straps go in. There's another part that goes in the top here. I don't know, maybe thermostat, something like that. Thermostat housing, I should say. Seems to be a logical thing to have up at the top of a radiator. Okay, so now to make the box that sits underneath the driver, and the clips go at the top, the clips go at the top. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've used some regular contactor glue around the base just to hold the components roughly in place. Then these mitered corners I'm going to attach with extra thin cement. So now the radiator assembly can go on the front. There's just a couple of little slots down there, and then it leans back in place. Next, on each side there's a support for the rear of the fenders, the wheel arches, if you like. There's a little slot on the chassis and they just sort of fit into that, like so. So what we can do now is put on the wheel arches. They fit around the radiator assembly, like this. They sit on the front of the chassis, and then they just connect up with the back of these struts here. Can put the driver's seat together now. It sits in like so. Then when it's built, it can sit on top of the box here. There's some runners sit inside like so. Excellent. I've added just a little bit of panel wash to these slats to bring them up a little bit, and then I can put the driver's seat and its box in place on the floor. With the front set in place now, I can add the bumper as well. Just slots on. Can you put the brake lever in, and then the gear lever goes in as well. Like so. Right, this is a pedal from the front end of the cab. This is either the accelerator or the clutch. Of course, the brake is the handbrake. And there's going to be a bit of photo etch on there for this little tread, this rubber tread. So what I'm going to do is pick it up with a grease pencil and plonk it down on top. Now I am using the high viscosity one because it means I can move it around a bit if I'm not 100% happy, which I'm not yet. Gives you about 10 up to 30 seconds. There you go. I'm happy with that now. Can you see? Another one of those, then we can put them into the cab. First of all, there's this plate that has to go in. I'm going to hazard a guess it's some sort of inspection plate, or gives you access to some thing, a gearbox or something like that, I don't know. It goes in there, and then we cover that with a bit more paint when we can. Then the pedals that we did earlier go into these little holes right at the back, and then set them upwards a bit. While I've got a moment of break here, I'm going to, there's bits of hair everywhere, I'm going to put the decals on the instrument panel here. There's just two of them here, and there's another warning symbol or something that goes elsewhere. Another good thing about these decals early doors is that we can see how quickly they float off. These took like literally 20 seconds to come off, so these are really quite quick coming off the backing paper. So it gives us an indication later on when we come to the really big decals, all of the red crosses and stuff like that, how long to leave them on before we can start feeling whether they're releasing from the paper and getting ready to take them off. Right, that's going to need a little bit of setting solution to help it out. There we go. And I'll pop the last decal in the water now. It's going to go here. It's some sort of information or other, I don't know what it is. Again, I'm sure someone will know. Someone will say, yeah mate, that's the reminder of what pressure to set this at, or to remind you to park it in gear or whatever, I don't know. That literally, or maybe even like things like tyre pressures, I don't know. Anyway, it goes about there, a bit higher up maybe. That'll do nicely. So that's the decals done. I mean, that second decal was like 10 seconds and it was moving on its paper. So these aren't strongly bound, which is a good thing later on, I think. I think it is anyway. We'll find out. So that's the instruments done. I'll let them dry on for a while. Then there are these 3 boxes here. I am going to guess fuse boxes and relays and stuff like that. I'm going to guess part of the electrical system here. Might be wrong, but might be right. It's just that what the only sort of boxes like that I've ever seen inside a car of a similar age will be the fuses. So that's what I'm going to say they are. I'm sure someone can tell me otherwise. Finally, there's another piece that fits into here. Another like pedal, probably brake release, something like that. I don't know what it is, but it goes up in that, right up in that corner, up there, and sits down a bit. It looks like it sits down roughly to the level of the other pedals, so about there. It's like perhaps like a kick-off brake release or something like that. Alright, and now I am going to put this front panel onto the cab floor. It fits, I have to say, it fits so well. So beautifully well. And look at that, that's lovely. That really is lovely. Okay, I'm going to do this first. The instructions say to put the steering rack in first, but I don't want to. I want to put this in first, let that set, then I'll put the steering rack through, put the steering wheel on, touch up the instruments at the back there. Then just before it goes onto the chassis, I'll do the side steps here, the mounting steps. But for the moment, I'll leave that to dry. And so, page 16 of the instruction booklet, and I've finished one whole sprue, just the 20 or so to go. And the steering column can just go slot in there. Why don't you go through the old? There you go. And it slots onto there, just sits in there, and prods that about that far at the back. And when we're ready, we can put the steering wheel on as well. Maybe I'll do that a little bit later. And then finally, there's locating lugs here and holes on the chassis, and the whole lot just slides into place. Finally, for the engine compartment, there's this V-shaped stay, which kind of sits up where I think it should. It's supposed to go over these instruments, but there's no room for it to do it, so it has to go higher than it says on the instructions. So maybe the instruments are too high. I don't know what I've done wrong there, but obviously something. And these little handles go onto the side of the cowling, engine cowling, hood for your American friends, bonnet for my British friends, and what do you say down under, guys? What do you say down under? Bonnet, hood, or some other word? Let me know. Let me know. Send in your answers in the comments. That would be brilliant. Okay, so those are done. Okay, so we're going to start the substructure on the main cabin. Underneath there's this support bar. Goes across here first. Need to line up. It clicks into the locating lugs. Then there are two angle supports. They so go on. Oop. They should go on here. They sort of line up against it's back like that. Then you've got these supports here at the back. There's one on each side. Then there's this box which sits here, which would be just at the back of the driver's cab. I suspect this is a toolbox. It's where Captain Anson hid his gin, I think, as well. And there's this cover for this sort of box of something or other over here. Of course, Captain Anson didn't hide his gin in here, did he? He was going to have whiskey, but it got blown up. Van der Poel might have put his gin in there, I suppose. Anyway, that's the bottom of the ambulance sorted for the moment. Right, well, I was going to try and style this one out. Okay, I was going to try and sneak it past you and say, what, you didn't notice me putting that on all that time ago? Are you sure? Tut tut, but you know, I can't. I was going to, but then one of my kind correspondents here says, oh, the thing I like about you is you're always honest when you make mistakes. And I thought, well, that's blown it. I'll have to fess up to this one now. There's a part I've missed out putting in. And it's this one right here, which starts to make so much more sense to me now. Where things go. Okay, this bit here goes in, which is like the back wall of the engine bay. which then means that this here bit, which I was struggling with earlier, probably just fits straight in now, doesn't it? Into those two little points there and there. One bit there. One bit. I'll put it in. Anyway, so that's where they go. Apologies for forgetting that part. Thought I'd better be honest about it. Hope you don't mind. But the kit looks so much better now, doesn't it? Anyway, I'll sort this out and I'll be back to the rest of the kit in a moment. See, doesn't that look nicer? Oh well, back to the rest of the cab. There's some more bits and pieces up here at the front end while I try and cover my embarrassment by doing some work. It really was shocking. I do apologise for that. There we go. That's, actually, you know what, that needs to go out a little bit further. Just there, I think. So the these two parts of this bracket line up. See, trying to make myself sound really professional now, and I've already blown it. Now that is interesting because there is supposed to be, according to the instructions, Exhibit A, there's supposed to be a raised panel here, raised line, sorry, here on the floor for this box which has the supports for the rifles. But on the kit I can't see a raised anything there, so I'm just going to put it in and, you know, hope it looks alright. There we go. And over on this side, again, there's supposed to be a bit of raised markings here for this seat. This here seat, I'm going to just make the seat first. And then I'm going to put that on. The drawing suggests it should be up at the front end and sort of about halfway across the last plank. So I'm going to put it about there. And hope that that's all right. Right, so I'm going to fold up what I find, because there's like 4 bits here, so what I'm going to do is fold, just start the folds for each part and then sort of make them complete later in a minute, really. Photo etch, you know, it's grand when it works properly. Grand when it's not complicated, but a pain in the backside when it is a complicated thing, or the design isn't quite right. Anyway, there we go. So you can see already, just with a few sort of quick folds, we're sort of kind of almost at a rack already. So now it's just a case of getting all these pieces and slowly bringing them together without breaking them, because if you start flexing these backwards and forwards, they will break, and we don't want that to happen. So we'll do this part of it first, I think. Bond up this side, then close the back. It's fiddly, but we got to do it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to make some water containers. There are 6 of them. They just have a lid that goes on top, and then we can do more of them, 6 of them in total. Right, now there are a couple of jerry cans here, and they come in 2 halves, and there's like a photo etch to make like a nice ridge in between the two, and you can see on the photo etch there's a couple of holes to align them, because these have got pegs on to align them. Unfortunately, the holes on the photo etch are, say in this case, top left and bottom right, and the pegs are bottom left, top right. So if you put them right way round with the pegs, they're the wrong way round for the part. That just seems a bit daft to me. I think that is just really poor planning. Now I've had a look at the other part. Yeah, you get 2 of everything. You say maybe they swapped them. No, they haven't. They haven't swapped them over. They just got them wrong. So if you're going to want to do the jerry cans, you're going to have to take these pegs off, place that as you will, and then put the other half on, but without any alignment pegs working. Then when your water cans are done, put them inside the cage you've made, and actually just use that to finalise the shape of the cage, really. You could even just tack them with a bit of super glue or something, and then that way you know that they're going to sit properly because they're containing what they're supposed to contain. And you know what, a few dents and bends and whatever, it's not out the imagination that could happen to army stuff, is it really? So that's the way to finish it off, I reckon. Put your water cans in and just use them to help set up the shape. Then once you've done that, there's this little photo etched handle that you put on. Oh, you decide whether or not you do this. Obviously I'm going to, because it's there, and I should because it's in the kit, but got 6 of these little things to make, and making those bends are not easy. What I did was made the first main bend to sort of at this hinge to get the thing coming down, and then just used a pair of tweezers just to tweak this sideways so it completed the right angle. They're very, very fiddly. This bit is for someone who really loves photo etch, and much as I understand and like photo etch, I don't love it, but I will do them and they'll look great. Then there's this locking bar that goes across. It sort of sits over like this. Then when they're done and all settled out, they can sit under the back of the truck, under the back of the ambulance like this. And notice a couple of extra bits here. There's this very silly teeny tiny padlock and this very silly teeny tiny hasp there that needs to go on as well. But just get some super glue and slap it on at the back. Slap it on at the back and just put them in place and then hold them into set. This has been a long and quite infuriating part of the build, and you may want to decide whether or not you put handles on top of all the cans and things like that. It's up to you. And this rear mud flap sits on here and then rests back against the water rack. There sits this tiny little bracket of photo etch. I'm going to put the big bull bar, tow bars or whatever on as well while I'm here. They just go either side of these plates on the front bumpers here, like that. Then there's the big bar that goes between them. This is where normally, you know, you'd lash the tow rope around it, or the chains or whatever you needed to get from A to B. Right, well, I'm going to call that quits for today. We've made quite a lot of progress, so I'll give it a rest now, and we will come back tomorrow. We'll start on the back and the whole cab system, so the back, the ambulance bit, and then the front, the driver's cab, windows and so on. And that should push us really close to being finished. Okay?
Well, that was a long and traumatic day. It's been a long and traumatic week, to be honest. So we'll take a breather. We'll have a good night's sleep and kick off again tomorrow. We'll build the rest of the cab, obviously, then all the stretchers and stuff like that go in the back, and hopefully that will be that done, and of course the Princess Elizabeth figure that goes with it, and then put them all onto a simple diorama base. If you enjoyed it, please do remember, Imperial thumbs up on the like button. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel through the small logo down there. In any case, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.